Hi everyone. After finishing my first game Snake Eyes, I wanted to do a project involving web development. I know that for the next few games I develop is definitely gonna be pixel art games, so I decided to build my own pixel art editor. I used to use Pisco a lot and it's great, and my goal is to actually build something of similar quality. I will be using ReactJS and HTML Canvas. I defined the different sections of the editor and I'm giving them random colors just for me to keep track of where things are. I created a div and made it draggable, and the next thing I did was to group the draggable div under the same div as the toolbar, and then I just reused the code to make the animator draggable as well. I then created layers that the animator will manage. Next step was to make a toolbar. I just used divs with a flex display here. And yeah, actually that's it for stage 1. As you can see, I started to use the canvas to draw a few boxes already. Firstly, I drew a grid pattern here. Canvas API provides a function fillRect that just draws a rectangle shape and fills it with a specified color. If you have a grid pattern that has, say, 25 grid boxes, you need to call fillRect 25 times. The next thing to implement was the zoom and navigation features. So how I tested and debugged these features was to visually display points of interest. I drew borders as a visual aid to confirm that I was actually zooming into the corners. Within the code, I had a point of reference gridbox that I used to determine how centered the canvas is. So here I actually drew it as a white gridbox when I was debugging. As you can see here, the navigation and zoom is not smooth, and the reason being is that I coded it such that when it came to grid boxes, I only dealt with whole numbers. So when you navigate left, you jump straight to the next box on the left instead of slowly moving towards that box. The next thing I tackled was optimizing the way I drew the grid boxes onto the screen. If I had a 500 by 500 grid, I was drawing 250,000 boxes whenever something changed. One optimization I found was to split the fillRect method into fill and rect and call them separately. My understanding of fillRect was that it was just a wrapper around fill and rect methods. Even after the optimization, it was taking around 30 milliseconds to draw a 500 by 500 grid. And after exploring the Canvas API, I realized that I could be manipulating the pixels directly. Canvas has its own internal array to manage pixel data. So instead of 250,000 rect methods, I could do 250,000 assign statements, which is much cheaper. And bringing this implementation further, I could store that array of pixel data and just run a single putImage method each time. So therefore, the heavy 250,000 assign statements were only needed the first time the grid was drawn. Now that the canvas is optimized, I went on to redo the toolbar. I didn't like that it was taking up a lot of space at the side, so I removed it. It's quite an unconventional thing to not have a toolbar for an editor. I mean, even Paint has one, but I want to try something different. I got a feeling a lot of pixel artists out there might disagree with this, but I still want to try it this way for now. After using Pisco for a long time, the toolbar was actually quite useless for me as I was pressing the hotkeys most of the time, and I like that I'm getting a bigger canvas. I looked up more on HSV, which is Hue Saturation Value. I don't have a good understanding, but to me, hue is a value from 0 to 360, and it's just different colors. I think of saturation as just white to whatever hue I selected. Value to me is just black to whatever hue I selected. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong about this, but it was enough for me to implement the color picker. This box here is for value, just a linear gradient from black to nothing. If I change the background color underneath, it actually comes true. This box is for saturation, a linear gradient from white to the selected hue. So if I change the background color, you can see that the white is still there. And in the end, I just added the value box over the saturation box. And that is the basic color picker. In the prototype, I added another box on the right for the user to select the hue. After that, it was just a matter of implementing the color palette. I redid some CSS stylings and implemented the pen size configuration. The pixel editor is far from complete. I still have the bucket fill tool, line tool, shapes tool. I also have the animator to implement. and I think that one might be the hardest feature to do. Yeah, I'm looking forward to completing this project and actually using it to draw spreadsheets for my next game. Thanks for watching.